Get started. Welcome to the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting of Tuesday, May the 9th. A couple of housekeeping items. Item 2, 3390 Burning Bush has been removed. Thanks to the that item's been removed thanks to the really enlightened thinking of our staff. We've made some changes, and it actually makes it easier to get a generator. So you see what I did there? Enlightened thinking makes it easy to get a generator. So we have that for item 2, and then also item 7 has been removed for the same reason, 4060 Cranbrook. Item 6, 1659 Ledbury has been postponed. And item 13, 6750 Oak Hills has been postponed. So if you're here for any of those items, is anyone here for any of those items? Okay, so those have been postponed and will not be heard this evening.
Yes, sir, for number 2, do we need this public speaker? Is that right, or we need...
No, nobody made a comment. There's no comment. It's not an item on.
It's not an item on the agenda, so there's no need for comment.
Correct.
So unless you'd like to stay and hear the rest of the items on the agenda, you can go.
You'd entertain.
All right. So
Yeah, no.
can we take attendance?
So noted.
Okay. So I'd like a motion to approve the minutes of April 11th, 2023.
So moved. Second.
And second. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. So as a brief introduction, the Zoning Board of Appeals is a 7-member quasi-judicial body appointed by the Bloomfield Township Board of Trustees per the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act. Matters pending before the zoning. The appeal of a decision made by the Zoning Board of Appeals is subject to circuit court review. Each case will be called separately in the order shown on tonight's agenda. There will be an opportunity for public comment at one point during each case. All persons wishing to comment will be asked to provide their name and address at the podium. Address your comments to the board and not the applicant or other members of the public. Given the number of appeals tonight, please make your comments brief and to the point. Comments by the Neighborhood Association will be considered as part of the factual information presented to the board, but those comments are not the determining factor for approval or denial. Please confine comments to the specific request before the board. For a request to be successful, an affirmative vote of at least 4 members present is required. We hope this provides you with a better understanding of what you can expect at tonight's meeting. Thank you. We'll now call the first case. Item 1P866 Rock Spring Road. Is the applicant here?
Yes.
So if you could approach the podium, give us your name and address.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Rick Ratner. My address is 380 North Old Woodward in Birmingham, Suite 300.
PowerPoint?
Yes. Thank you. I have a very brief PowerPoint considering the number of items on your agenda, but I must say that the thing about this case that has always made me wonder, there are some details in your notice on what has to be done to comply with the ordinance. But all of those depend on the peculiar or exceptional practical difficulties. You know this is your ordinance, and I just put that up there because in preparation for tonight, I really had to go back to the basics of why we have variances. And the basics are because there's something about the property that makes us ask for a variance, because the variance was written presumably for a flat piece of property. And that's always the way it is. That's why we have the Zoning Board of Appeals to help us out. Well, we have one dramatic issue with our property. It's a big drop in downhill. The backyard drops about 13 feet, and I don't know how high this auditorium is, but it's pretty close to it, I'll bet. Maybe a little more. But that's a big drop for 150 feet. And this is a line, just to orient you, with our neighbor's property, which will become, the reason I'm doing that will become evident in a few minutes. But to get to all of those variances, they all have to do with what happens with this grade change. Now, I put up the topo, but you can't read it, and I couldn't either until I enlarged it. So I just put the salient fact that the front yard is 834 feet above sea level, and the backyard ends at 821. That translates to a dimensional grade that causes us exceptional practical difficulties. One of the issues here, and the last issue that was mentioned, is the height of the retaining walls. I will show you pictures of that. The height and the levels of the retaining walls are due directly to the fact that this property, am I popping here? Is that me?
Yes, the one.
You always pop when you
Oh,
speak.
thank you. I beg your pardon? No. Well, I'm excited about this. I don't know. It all comes from the drop in the level of the ground. And that's something we didn't have anything to do with. Not only that, we didn't cause it. But you have to do a job in engineering the retaining walls so that the earth is maintained and retained. Now, this is a replacement of a wall. The old walls were old railroad ties that kept the earth back for a while. Unfortunately, they rotted and the earth was coming through. So my client took the initiative and replaced it with beautiful stones, big, heavy stones that he carried himself and engineered at 200 pounds apiece up to several levels of the retaining wall. The new wall is modern and safe, and that goes to the height of the fences. I'll explain that. There's the wall. It's done in tiers, because if you didn't do that, you'd have a slant that would go into the swimming pool. And the swimming pool pre-existed all of this. They bought the house with the swimming pool. So that's what it looks like now. And I draw your attention to the right-hand side of the screen, because he engineered in that wall the stairway down, which is noted on the right. This is the back. There's a survey stake, and I put this in here because not only of the fence, but because it continues after the wall to go down the 15 feet or so to the back stake. So you can see that the whole property is on an angle. So we've got a logic for the location of the fences, and I want to get to the fences. The location of the fences are a function of the necessity of the retaining wall. This is like a logic problem. The retaining wall is in turn a necessity of the dramatic grade change from the front to the rear. All fences are located to ensure safety of the residents and invitees to the property. And the height of the wall is a function of the unusual grade. So I mention the location because technically, when Wade went out on his inspection, he noted properly that the retaining wall, one retaining wall was 11 feet, and that counted the fence. Is that right? But the fence has to be up there. Why? Because if there's no fence there, people are going to fall off. That's a drop of 4 or 5 feet. So we put a fence up there, my client did, so that anybody coming out of his ground level wouldn't walk off. It's kind of common sense. Same thing with the fence in the back. That's looking from the backyard into our yard. And the fence is set back because if you're out there enjoying the backyard, you might step off that grade. And to fall 3 or 4 feet is not a lot of fun. But the fence is there, and it's only 4 feet. All the fences are 4 feet. The stairway is part of this, and that's fenced. It's all safety. It was not an intent to put fences that were 11 feet tall or more than that. Now, there's 2 fences that are not in here. This is the grade, to show the grade from the end and to show the dog. It's a very nice dog. There's 2 fences. One is on the west side of the property, and that was an old fence that was there and pre-existing, and it acted as a pool fence because they had to have pool fence. The one on the right is of the house, which is the north, which is the east, is bordered by a homeowner that is the one that is objecting to this. And I have to end by saying this. There's a very narrow area, relatively, between the front of my client's house and the property of our neighbors. So narrow that you really have to have an easement because you use each person's property to get the lawn cutting back there. But our neighbor has indicated to us that in the future he wants to build something back there, which we have no problem with. But he can't get construction equipment back in that space. So we've offered him an easement. We haven't heard from him, but in all fairness, he got it last week, late. So they're looking at it, and I didn't expect a quick answer. And the idea is, we want to be good neighbors. We're going to be giving him, if he accepts it, an easement to get back there for lawn and to get back there for construction. Of course, anybody who uses it has to repair the easement if it's ripped up. But that's the only way to get back there. And there's no reason not to be a good neighbor and to do that. I don't have that with me, but that's what we've done. And we'll wait for an answer there. I did it this way because I really believe that all the detail that's in that notice is all proper and done well. But it all depends on a central issue, and that is we live at the top of a hill. And you got to retain the earth, and you have to prepare so that people don't walk off that retaining wall. If we didn't do it in tiers, we'd have less landscaping, because each tier is landscaped. And we'd also have a very big wall. And this one is at least broken up. So that's our story, and we hope that you can grant us the necessary variances so we keep this as it is. If there are any questions, we are here to answer them.
Any questions from the board? So
I have a quick question. Are the walls, the perimeter ones anyway in the side yard, roughly where the old wood ties were?
The ties were in front of the house. The walls are, the fences are on the side. So there's a fence on the east and the west, and that's not necessary for a wall. But we are going to, our plans are to landscape that to give a landscape buffer between ourselves and our neighbor to the east.
Okay.
any other questions from the board? And just, thank you, that was a very helpful presentation. So the hill existed before, the
Yes.
pool existed before,
Right.
and there were some retaining walls that existed that were made out of wood?
It's the old style railroad ties, if I'm not mistaken. Ed, yes.
So are all the stones that we saw in the same location of the railroad ties, or were additional stones placed elsewhere?
There was.
Well, wait a minute,
Ed,
so.
Let up and introduce yourself.
Okay.
They're in the same location.
You can use that mic.
So we did have some extra stones because once, everything was eroding. So there are some more stones that I guess would appear because of the eroded railroad tie retaining walls.
Go ahead, we can have the correct answer from the wife.
I'm Suzanne Quinlan Commit. I live at 866 Rock Spring Road. To clarify, yes, we replaced the railroad ties with the stone, the ones that you saw behind the pool, the really high two-tiered area. The one at the very bottom of the hill where you could see the picture of our dog and the fence, that retaining wall is sort of new, because we wanted to level out our backyard. So we needed something to hold up, because it used to kind of trickle down.
Off the back of the pool.
Kind of next to the pool in the back. So we couldn't have, it was hard to have like a fire pit or any kind of seating because you'd kind of roll down the hill. So we sort of just propped up that little area.
Thank you.
And in the request, it's a 4-foot-high black aluminum dog containment fence, but it also serves as the fence that you'd need around the pool as well.
Yes, and it's on top of the wall.
And it's on top of the wall.
You saw the dog behind it in the last picture.
I did. What's the dog's name? Junie. Okay, that's important. Any other questions from the board? All right, so I'll open this up to the public. Does anyone like to speak on this? Sure, if you could come up and give us your name and address.
From here.
Yeah.
Make this a little taller, huh? Dr. Richard Raffini. I live at 3868 Mill Spring Road in Hickory Heights neighborhood. I've been a resident of the neighborhood for 10 years now, approximately 10 years, with my wife and 2 kids. I've seen some projects and odd jobs going on, and some things that are nice and some things that aren't so nice. As you can see, this has been a beautiful, beautiful project. I'm simply here to say that it's improved the curb appeal, and everything that you see is enhanced the property in the neighborhood, period. So I am in full support of the zoning variance that we see today. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak on this item? Give us your name and address.
Hi, I'm Canella Costas. I live at 3832 Far Hill Drive. I'm at the bottom of the hill. We talk a lot about the people that are at the top of the hill, but for those of us that wake up in the morning and we walk out our front yard, I get to see the Commit's yard, the Fink yard, the Dugan yard, all the yards, and it's in our cul-de-sac. As you know, we don't have parks in our community, but we have great neighborhoods. There are people that walk through that cul-de-sac. And when you stop there, it looks amazing. And what was there before was okay, but it
didn't look amazing.
Didn't look amazing, and it certainly didn't look inviting. And what I like specifically, again, because I have to look at this, is that the house adjacent to them also has a very similar fence. It's the same size, it's the same color, it's the same texture. So if you're walking there, the sight line is very clean. So I don't even know how to describe where that, right there where that garage is, that house right there on the right, they have a pool as well, and my house is right next to theirs. So you can't really tell whose property is where, quite frankly. So for my purposes, I feel like this has been a great thing for the neighborhood and an added security, because we've got kids and wildlife and dogs. I don't, but everyone else does. And having this extra protection around a pool is really helpful as well. I would hate for kids to be running in the yard, coming from the bus stop, and having some sort of accident back there. So I'm very much in favor of it, and I hope that you see the value. There are also some other fences in our neighborhood that are as nice that you recently approved. There's one that's more of a chain link style, and again, this one really meshes nicely into the neighborhood. So whatever consideration you could take for this, I would appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else that'd like to speak on this?
My name is Lisa Cooper, and I live at 775 East Valley Chase. So it's kind of a funny little area because I'm kind of right behind the Commits down the hill. The Costases are kind of right behind the Commits down the hill. But we all kind of back up against each other. Anyways, I'm just here to say that Kim and I often joke that their old retaining wall was going to slide right down the right down the hill, and I say that very seriously. That I appreciate the fact that they've gone to the effort of replacing it, because they are indeed. We would be, we are where the water would run to if they came sliding down the hill, and it was very due. And I'll say I've lived there since 2013, and I think you guys moved in somewhere around the same time, and just so many improvements to their house and their property, and they put their blood, sweat, and tears into it, and it really is lovely. It's just lovely. The wall, the fence, the backyard. You can't ask for better than that, I think. We all want our property values to go up, and as Kim said, safety for the neighborhood. So I vote yes.
Thank you very much. Does anyone else would like to speak on this?
Hi, my name is Chris Costas. I also live at 3832 Far Hill Drive. That was my wife here earlier. And I'm just going to be pretty quick because everything that everyone said is spot on. The only thing is I wish there would have been some older pictures, before pictures, because it's been a great transformation, and it's been a lot of work put into that, and it actually is safer in that backyard too, especially where they put that little 4-foot little raise there, so any kids over there on the backside are not sliding down the hill. That was there previously. So I think the design was really thought through and looks great.
Thanks very much. Anyone else? All right, so I will close the public hearing. I don't know if there's much need to respond to anything that's been said. Mr. Ratner, is there anything that you'd like to? That was pretty well said. So any other questions that the board has?
Mr. Chairman, with regard to the appeal at 866 Rock Spring Road, I would move that the permission request be approved as submitted based on the information presented. The applicant has demonstrated compliance with Section 42-7.6 standards. Location of the accessory structure will not hinder or discourage the adjacent use of property due to the placement of the retaining walls, and in fact actually helps to preserve the adjacent property by their being installed. I then go on to move that the dimensional variance also be approved as presented. The applicant did demonstrate all of the standards for practical difficulty. Compliance with the strict letter of the ordinance would be unduly burdensome, and candidly, you really couldn't build the house if you didn't grant a variance for this. The steep grade in the back is a challenge for most contractors. There is no injustice to the adjoining neighbors. In fact, again, this helps to preserve the nature of adjoining property. Unique circumstances of the property have certainly been demonstrated by the topography, which is not something that was self-created by the owner. If this motion is approved, all necessary permits must be made within 5 business days for the existing fence and retaining walls. I do not at this time see the need for any additional evergreen screening to be planted. In fact, I kind of like the look of the stone as it is.
Support.
So I have a motion and support. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations, your request is granted.
Thank you very much.
Calling the next item, item number 1. Is the applicant ready? This is 929 Glengarry. Okay. State your name and address.
Sure. I'm Matt Whetstone with Greater Detroit Landscape Company. We're the designers for the project for the Twiddles at 929 North Glengarry. So we're asking, I'll run in the order of the slides. So the Twiddles just purchased the home over the winter. They're doing some remodel work in the home as well as updating the outside and adding a few features. One of the items that we're doing is we're enlarging the size of the rear patio. Right now, it's about 9 foot deep off of the house. We're going to increase that to about 14.5 foot off of the house, which is a reason why we're redoing the pergola. We're going to be basically redesigning the pergola the way it stands, minor tweaks just in the end rafter end details, but extending it to cover the 14.5 feet of the existing. Height's going to remain the same, overall style and everything will remain the same. Off of that new raised patio, we're stepping down into a lower seating patio that'll be bluestone. We're going to be putting in a gas outdoor fireplace unit. Structure will sit 9 foot high at the highest point, 8 foot across. That'll be directly behind the home. Sits in all the setbacks, so we're not encroaching on any of the setbacks or anything like that. It's going to be made out of stone to match the house when it's all said and done. We're also, or the builder is, putting in a generator for the home. Generator is going to go on the south side of the home. We need to set it 5 foot off of the house opposed to your 3, just on account of opening windows to meet the clearance and requirements for that. We're still 19 feet off of the side lot line, which keeps us well inside the 16 foot that's required. And then also on the back patio, we're going to be doing an outdoor kitchen on the north end of it, which will be on the driveway side of the patio. That's going to run the 14 feet in length. It'll have a raised backsplash to kind of screen the driveway area. Off of the driveway side, it'll sit, I want to say that was 6.5 feet roughly. 9 feet, 8 feet high. 8 feet high on the back side. On the patio side, it'll be basically a 6 foot high wall patio, so it's approximately 2 feet above patio grade. Again, that's going to be built out of the same home as the stone as the home, so everything will tie in and look like it was all designed that way. We've been to the village on their last meeting. Everything was approved through the village with no objections or anything else, so.
Thanks very much. Any questions from the board? I'll open this to the public. Anyone here like to comment on this item? Close public hearing, bring it back to the board.
I'll make a motion for this. With regard to, I'll start with the permission request at 929 North Glengarry. I move that it be approved for the pergola, fireplace, and kitchenette as submitted. Based on the information presented, the applicant did demonstrate compliance with section 42-7.6 standards because the accessory structures will be will not hinder or discourage the adjacent use of property due to the fact that they are well within the setbacks and will be screened from public view. And then with regard to the dimensional variance for the generator, we still need that, right?
Yes.
So with regard to the variance there, not having it adjacent to the home, I'm going to move that that also be approved as presented. And I will say that based on the information, the applicant did demonstrate all the standards for practical difficulty because compliance with the strict letter of the ordinance would be unduly burdensome because of, I guess there's issues with the windows and being able to put it there in the backyard. And there is no injustice to the adjoining neighbors by reason of the fact that generators are becoming much more common these days and quite necessary, especially in this area of the township. The unique circumstances of the property have been demonstrated, again, given the issues with the window and safety concerns with the placement of the generator. And these, this is not self-created due to the reasons stated above. And I will add that all application for the necessary permits should be made within 1 year and should be obtained prior to construction. And for the generator, if there is going to be any public view, it should be screened by evergreens.
It is going to be screened.
Okay, so, and those evergreens have to be, they have to meet the height of the generator or be taller and have to be there 12 months out of the year.
Yes.
Support.
Motion and support. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Congratulations, your request is granted.
Thanks. Have a nice night.
So, as I said, item 2 has been removed, so we're going to item 3. 4234 Cary Lane. Smart move there.
Barb Kaczynski at 4234 Cary Lane.
I'm her husband, Steve Murdoch, 4234 Cary Lane.
Okay.
We believe we have a pretty simple request. We were before the board last August, get approval for our detached garage accessory structure. At the time, we were just going to use electric heat in it, and over the course of construction, came to our attention that a mini split unit is more energy efficient and would give us some additional benefits. The location size of the proposed unit meets all the setbacks of the township. We're over 18 feet from the side lot line. We're over 85 feet from our backyard line. We have existing evergreen trees and have heard no objections from our neighbors in regards to this request. So that's about all we have.
So you're not planning to add any additional screening?
We would if we had to. However, there's some confusion in the. Let me back up. There's some confusion for us in the ordinance as it is written. The ordinance says that any unit ground-mounted mechanical, air conditioner, generator, air conditioning, right, has to be immediately behind the residential building. From what I can see in the ordinance, our detached structure is a residential building. It's in a residential district. We had to get a residential building permit to construct it. The unit sits immediately behind the thing. It meets all the setbacks. So we're kind of wondering why we're here, but we are here and we're asking for permission to build it. If we have to screen it, we will.
So can anybody see it? Neighbor behind you, or?
Our neighbor behind us, no, because there's in fact, I don't think it made it in here, but we actually stood on the property line and took pictures. There's a couple of large trees in the back that come down. That's inside the property line there. We've talked to all of our neighbors. Nobody has any issues with it. The association approves of it. So if it requires screening, we'll do it. Here's another quite interesting quirk about this is the inspector came out and looked at this, and if we took that same unit and bolted it to the back of the wall, we would need no screening, we'd need no permission, and we wouldn't have had to pay $325 to come here and ask. But because we want to put it on the ground, here we are. So
so you're saying because of all those factors, you'd like us to take that into account when we make the, okay, I get it.
And
well done. Well played. Okay, yeah, I'll open this to the public. Anyone like to comment on this? Close public hearing. So the reason he's here is the garage is detached, so that's why they had to get a variance for it. So all his points are sort of on the screening. Because typically you'd say screen it, but I think he's said some things that.
I'd like to make a motion to approve for the regard to the appeal at 4234 Cary Lane for the dimensional variance required for the proposed mini-split unit that is not immediately adjacent to the residential building. I move that the variance be approved as requested. Based on the information presented, the applicant did demonstrate all the standards for practical difficulty because compliance with the strict letter of the ordinance would be unduly burdensome. Due to the fact that it would, this is actually not preventing any kind of unreasonable use of the property. There's no injustice to adjoining neighbors based by reason of the fact that the orientation to the home, it is behind the structure in itself. Unique circumstances with this situation, I don't see why there would be any real issues in putting it where it is, and it is certainly not self-created. If approved, the motion must include application for all necessary permits to be made within 1 year, and all permits must be obtained prior to construction. I'm not going to necessarily add that there should be additional evergreen plantings, although I guess if some neighbors had any issues with that, that could be something down the road.
Support. Motion and support. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations, your request is granted. Calling item 4. 3672 Middlebury.
Good evening. I'm going to let my wife talk.
Really smart husbands.
Actually, I'm the one do all the work, that's why.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
That's not surprising.
We don't live there. This is a rental home. It's not huge house like others, but we try to keep it. Actually, that house we've been on it for a while, and what happened is we have very nice tenants, and I keep the place very nice too. And because recently, 2 years ago, our neighbor built, now they all build a huge house. So, and the driveway is also going to the sideway. So it's like you don't have those neighbor privacy anymore. And the reason I put that little fence there to give between the neighbors, so you have privacy when my tenants sitting outside the yard patio, so they have a little bit privacy. And that's the reason I put up there. And I did ask my neighbor, the huge house, they don't mind. They say, actually, you give us a privacy too. So that's the reason we put up there.
It's an indoor patio.
No,
What-
there's a patios also outside, and there's a backyard also have like little additional family room or whatever you want to call. So it's not really that big. It's small, but I know a little bit taller than what they asked for, 4 feet tall. If I put 4 feet tall, it wouldn't be a private anymore, privacy, because it's not really. And if you look at the drive on the street, Middlebury Lane, you don't even see that. You don't even see that. And if I didn't go all the way back. It's just that little corner for privacy for both sides, and it's not interfere others. And so that's the reason I put up there.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board?
I'm wondering, would you be able to put evergreen screening outside?
Yeah, that's what I wanted.
I was trying to put a string out there, but because I put up there 2 years ago, and I asked my neighbors, and they didn't say, no, we like the way it's because you continue same color as a garage. It didn't even look like you have a fence there. And I say, okay, and then that's, so that's what I'm. But if I think would it look better, I'll put a few trees there that make it look, if it does make it different. Because on the side of the garage, I already have a plant there already. And I like to keep my yard nicely looking too. I'm not the kind, this is my rental home. If you notice that I keep my neighbors pretty well done area.
Yes. Yeah, just because in the township, we like our green spaces, and typically we don't have privacy fences, and sometimes we'll request that people screen it with evergreen, so when the public is looking at it, they just see trees. So just wanted to see what your feeling on that would be.
If you think that will help, I'll put few of them, so see, because evergreen tree is not always like look nicely, because recently, look up this year, we have all the ice storm, all my neighbors, they all went down, and now I cut it down all half, and that look like terrible. It doesn't even look, nicely anymore. So
thank you.
I tend to agree with Ms. Faki. I think if you want the fence at the higher height, that it really should have evergreen screening, and it'll help mitigate the height if we're talking about a height variance.
Okay.
Yeah, and I agree with that it's quite a stark fence to look at, and we can understand the need for it, but it's going to need to be screened.
If you look at up there now, all the new houses, they have those camera everywhere. If you sit in the backyard, you really don't have the privacy because the camera's right there. That's another thing. That's the reason I put up there. And I'm not the kind of person like to have fence. I always like to be open. But on this, fortunately, this area.
No problem with that. You're going to have to screen it. So, any other questions from the board? So we'll open this to the public. Anyone like to comment on this? Close public hearing, bring it back.
Got somebody.
Jeff,
I'm sorry. Please come forward. All right.
Mr. Saltz.
Come on forward. You can give us your name and address and your feedback.
Hi, I'm Jeff Sauls. I live at 3114 East Bradford in Westchester Village, and I'm going to speak from three different perspectives, three hats. One as a longtime 44-year resident in Westchester Village, and also as president of the Westchester Village Homeowners Association. And the second hat, and the third hat, which will become evident, of the relevance will become evident in a minute. We object to putting up 6-foot fences. We start doing that, they're going to start appearing all over, and 6-foot privacy fences, it just is not a good look. I think you even said that it's not something that the township wants. However, once we start approving them for all these reasons, then we'll start to get them all over. We have another issue, another one later, a 6-foot fence again. It is my opinion that there's no practical difficulty or necessity for this. It's just a want. There's no other reason for it. But the third reason I want to talk. I'm also now and past. I'm the chairman of the Bloomfield Township Planning Commission, and in 2007, the Planning Commission with the township passed the master plan. And there's something, you touched on it in your opening comments about listening to homeowners associations and all. You're not going to take that as, you want to hear the facts, but it won't be a governing response. But I would like to just put in to tell you that in the master plan, I'm sure you all have seen it, gone through it, you understand it. On page 39, it talks about implementation, housing, and neighborhood recommendations. And it says two things. It says one of the goals is to continue active homeowner association in the township and, more importantly, increase homeowner association participating by encouraging their role in architectural review within their neighborhoods and the addition of a sign-off requirement for any improvements to residences, properties within the association area. And that was the master plan, reviewed every 5 years since then and reapproved by the Board of Trustees. And it's very specific that a homeowners association sign-off is one of the things that is one of the goals of the township master plan. This hasn't been signed off. And so I would respectfully request that.
So has it been rejected then? So when you say hasn't been signed, so it was submitted and rejected?
I believe that is correct.
Never even submitted.
Oh, never
Okay.
submitted. Okay.
So it's not.
All right. I apologize. I wasn't quite. The point is that if we start allowing 6-foot fences and 6-foot privacy fences, especially all over, even though they may say there's a need because of privacy, whatever, the privacy is the thing, I think we're going to start looking at yards that look like prison yards. And I would hate to see that that in the township become the norm. So we would respectfully request that you deny or at least make them screen it, I suppose, but we don't want to see 6-foot fences throughout our subdivision or through the township. Thank you.
I have a question, Mr. Saltz. I have a question.
To me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Does
Tom Cruise would say you have not been excused.
Does the master deed for Westchester Village include the police powers for the association to enforce these?
Yes, we've already gone through it with several attorneys. We just finished a lawsuit against us where the homeowner was thrown out and was ordered to abide by the deed restrictions. So we have legal precedents for that. We do.
Which of the Westchesters was that for? Because there are, what, 5 of them?
There's 4 Westchesters. Actually 5. One of them is not Westchester.
I understand.
But the 4 that are, there's Old Westchester, the original is 1, 2, and 3. And I honestly don't know which one this is. I honestly don't.
Because they're all different.
But the deed restrictions and all the covenants and everything are all the same.
No, they're not.
They are pretty much. They are. They've been changed.
So it's not relevant to the
we're talking
matter
about
that we're
township,
discussing.
not homeowners association.
Was just asking about the homeowners association's ability to enforce police powers.
Okay.
Yeah, well, through lawsuits, obviously. That's about the only way. Anyway, that's it. That it? Okay, thank you.
So, so wait a minute. I haven't closed the public hearing yet, so you're not. So anyway.
My name is Mike Smith. I live at 3571 Berkshire Drive, and I'm co-chairman of the Architectural Control Committee. This fence project was never presented to the Homeowners Association for approval or denial. It was never approved. I did talk with the homeowner, and as she stated, this is a rental unit, and the main purpose for the fence, when she put it up, was so that her tenants could sit out on their patio and have some privacy, and so that they didn't have to look into the garage of this colonial that's next door, where the garage doors are frequently left open, and see everything that they've got in there. That was the main reason she put it up. Now, I will say the fence does blend in with the house and does not clash as far as that's concerned, but it is clearly visible from the road as you drive by. Our Architectural Control Committee criteria is that fences be no higher than 4 foot, with the exception, we do allow 54-inch fences around swimming pools and 6-foot high privacy fences in the rear and side lots of homes that face non-residential property. Otherwise, we do not allow or approve of 6-foot high fences. So I would think at a minimum, she needs to screen the fence, and that when she puts the screening in, that the trees have to be high enough that they will cover the fence at the time she puts them in, and not 10 years down the road. So I would ask that you at least request that the fence be screened, if not removed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who'd like to comment on this item? I'm going to close the public hearing and let the applicant respond to any of the comments made by the public.
Yes, I did not apply for and got penalty I pay for. And then also the reason I didn't think I would need to apply for because it wasn't connected to the house. That's number one. And number two, after I talked to the association, I asked Jeff to come over and look at it. And he said, oh, we're not allowed to have 6 feet. And this was done 2 years ago, okay? And after he said that to me, so I usually don't go around, look at the neighborhood, what they look like, what they do their yard. I was driving around for that day, I see about 10 neighborhood all have same kind of fence, 6 feet tall too, in little area. And then I said to myself, if they can do it, just like he said, if they can do it, why couldn't I do it? Do I make it do I look different? That's why I couldn't have it? And then not just that, I see there's one of the house do not have a swimming pool. You have the whole yard fence, 6 feet, go all the way around. And all I ask you to
So what we're trying to do is look at the layout of this request in your house. So we can't analyze or really go through other houses in the neighborhood. We're looking at your request and whether there's a practical difficulty and a need for your request, because you're exceeding the typical height. You've got objection from your homeowner association, and you have deed restrictions. So there's several things that are in the way of approving this right now.
Okay.
So we're just trying to confine it, so you can we're just asking you to respond to what was said. And I
They
think
mentioned something about if I want to keep it that way, I should have some kind of a tree around it, right? That's what he said.
well, that was
The gentleman said that.
one comment was totally opposed to the fence because of its height and its location. And then the other comment was trees would help, but there's still concern about the height of it.
Okay. If mine is higher that, tell me what other people that did they can approve for 6 feet high. Why couldn't I have it too? Tell me that.
So each property is unique, so we just can only speak to the case that's in front of us. So I'm not able to address other instances that you might have seen. So we're just trying to look at the facts in front of us here in your property. And I'll say it's also very unusual to have a fence that's not connected to the house.
It wasn't connected to the house, so
So is there anything else you'd like to say? Because then we'll discuss among ourselves.
I wanted to put some tree around the front of the fence. I wanted to do that. But if you ask me to take it down, I don't think I'm willing to take it down because it's not really look that bad to the neighborhood. And my neighbor happy with that because they have kids there and they said we like to be private and we give them a private and give us a privacy. And this, I don't think I asked that much.
Okay. All right, so I think we've got a kind of a clearer picture.
I have an observation, just to throw it out, or was anybody else?
No, we'll let you start.
Yeah, you could give your...
So my sense is that, you know, the neighborhood, and I live in one that doesn't want tall fences. My sense is, you know, a 6-foot fence around a yard is one thing and affects the, you know, the flow and the feel of the neighborhood. This one as a screen wall and its location, to me, is almost like part of a room. They could build a room in this space here, and you would be looking at a wall that long. And we've all said it kind of blends architecturally. So it's not like it's a fence that's out near the edge of the properties or that's impeding flow or use. They could fill that space with a house addition and we wouldn't even be here. So I don't have an objection to it as a fact. I don't think it opens up to people surrounding their yards with 6-foot fences for me. I think it's, I think there is a practical difficulty with the larger house next door in the driveway. And I would only, so I'm inclined to towards approval. We could ask them to do a 4-foot. It would still need screening. Your fence, the screening, you know, for their privacy would probably want to be 6 feet tall anyway. So for me, with this fence stopping where it does and full screening, you know, every 12 inches on center or the height at least of the fence is within my realm, and I don't think it affects the rest of the neighborhood.
Okay. Anyone else?
I'm going to agree. One of the things that occurred when the subdivision eliminated the restriction on 2-story homes is that homes that had been built and been able to enjoy, or what we frequently refer to as have the quiet enjoyment of their property, found themselves in situations such as this where that was taken away. The only way to do that would be to tear this house down, build another one, and then maybe we can have 3-story houses, and then we can put 5-story high-rises. But the bottom line is, in order to continue to be able to use the property, whether it's tenant-occupied or not, if this were owner-occupied, the issue of quiet enjoyment comes into play. I think the 6-foot fence is appropriate, especially considering the way the garage is situated next door. And I do think the necessity for screening, for evergreen screening, is presented and will be requested. But I think I can certainly see the necessity that the elimination of the restriction on 2-story homes has created.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay. Fire away.
With regard to the appeal at 3672 Middlebury Lane for this fence here, I'm going to move that the variance be approved as requested. Based on the information presented, the applicant did demonstrate all the standards for practical difficulty because compliance with the strict letter of the ordinance would be unduly burdensome because of the larger homes and the lack of privacy at this location. There is no injustice to the adjoining neighbors by reason of the fact that we will require that it be screened by evergreens 12 months out of the year so that it cannot be viewed by the public. Unique circumstances with the property have been demonstrated, again, given its location in the township and the surrounding homes and the lack of privacy that they have there, and none of this is self-created. So I will add to that because it's already existing, you should get your permits within 5 business days, and you also will have to plant evergreen trees that meet or exceed the height. So if it's 6-foot fence, you're going to need trees that are 6 feet or even taller. And those trees are going to have to be maintained 12 months out of the year so that they block the fence all year long for the neighbors.
Support. So I have motion and support. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Request is granted with that very important condition, so make sure you meet it.
Every time they need to come to for approvals, anytime they do anything.
What's that?
Oh, I was just going to say, you probably need to get approvals from the township for any work you've done on the house in the future.
DIY person, so, thank you.
All right, calling item 5968, South Reading.
I am Mark Miller. I live at 968 South Reading. We are seeking approval for a 4-foot aluminum dog fence. It does encroach in the back 15 feet into the 25 feet. Reason being to get as far away from the septic field as possible. The neighbors on that side are perfectly okay with this. There is an existing hedgerow in the back, and we will certainly plant any additional screening needed with evergreens that meet or exceed the fence height.
Thanks very much. Any questions from the board? I'll open the public hearing. Anyone like to comment on this? Close the public hearing, bring it back to the board. Pretty simple request.
Mr. Chairman, with regard to the permission request and request for a dimensional variance at 968 South Reading, I am going to move on the permission request first, and that be that the request be approved as submitted based on the information presented. The applicant has demonstrated all of the has demonstrated compliance with section 42-7.6 standards. Location of the accessory structure will not hinder or discourage the adjacent use of property, and in fact, by pushing it into the setback, it actually preserves the integrity of the septic field, which is a necessity for the neighborhood in general. I would then go on to move that the dimensional variance also be approved as requested based on the information presented. The applicant has demonstrated all the standards for practical difficulty. Compliance with the strict letter of the ordinance would be a duly burdensome because of the septic field in the rear yard. There is no injustice to the adjoining neighbors. And in fact, by placing the fence where it is, they have preserved, again, the integrity of the neighborhood by not damaging the septic field. Unique circumstances of the property have been demonstrated. Not every home in Bloomfield Township where the ordinance is applied have water and sewer. This one has septic, and that certainly is not something that's been self-created. With that having been said, if this motion passes, application for all necessary permits must be obtained within 1 year prior to installation. And the evergreen screening as presented, I believe, will be sufficient to block this from public view.
Support. Motion and support. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations, your request is granted.
Thank you.
So item 6 has been postponed. Calling item 7.
That was removed.
Been removed?
I'm sorry, removed.
7's removed.
7 has been removed. Calling item 8, 6681 Lasser Road.
This is the fence. Go around and-
Hi, my name is Ujas Fagati. It's my wife. We live at 668 Lasser Road. We're actually looking to get an approval on putting up a 6-foot fence around the property. Since the board has asked us to keep it short, we do have a husky, and our property is right on facing Lasser, and I really worry about him running out towards the main street, and we obviously always have traffic running up and down Lasser. So that was our request to get in a 6-foot fence. Obviously, we would screen it for our neighbors. one side of the house already has a screening through our neighbor on the left side. So we're probably just gonna build upon that and do not to damage the trees that he's already planted over there. Our property line they coincide, and the trees do kind of fall over. But we have worked out, and we've spoken about it with our neighbor, and I think we have a mutual understanding of what we're trying to do. Anything that builds upon that, we will definitely keep our neighbors.
So the requirement is the screening has to be on your property, so you really can't count the screening that your neighbor had, because your neighbor could cut them down or take them.
There wouldn't be enough space, right, because the property line the trees are already over the property line.
So if there's not enough space, can you think of any options that might be available to create the space?
We can, we do have an easement that we can probably plant some more trees around on the left side.
If I can, in looking at this plan in particular, we have get up and point.
Just use the red star at the top.
Red star.
The red star.
Red star. See if we can do it. Oh, there we go. Boom.
A star with a red star.
In looking at this, I'm trying to understand the necessity of not running.
Off the back.
You've got a patio there, don't you? So you can't run the fence through the middle of the patio. I guess one of my thoughts is I don't like the idea of 6 foot. I'm not certain that it's necessary for to contain the dog. I'm also not certain that the fencing needs to start at the front of the house and go back, as opposed to starting at the rear of the house, which makes it less visible from the street. Also, the gate issue is bothersome, but I'm not certain how you resolve that with the driveway and concrete here situated as it is. Unless you pull the fence in significantly, almost to the middle of the house, it looks like, which is certainly weird, if nothing else. Pulling it in from the rear yard line may or may not be something that's necessary. You do have, 25 feet from the rear that's necessary?
Correct.
There's 16 on the sides? Okay. So I'm wondering, A, why 6 feet versus 4? And I'm wondering if there's any way that the fencing could start at the rear of the house here for sure. Not certain that it's impossible. If you can do it here, you can do it there.
Yeah, we were trying to use, so for the gate on the one side, we actually already have a pre-existing wall that we were planning on using for the sliding gate to support it, so that you don't have to dig more pillars and support systems on the side. So that's why we kind of went to the front of the yard. And the back is kind of the driveway, which also gives visibility into the neighbor's house. So that's why we just wanted to block it in case somebody pulls into the driveway. They're not all the way back into the neighbor's, they're not looking into the neighbor's yard or anything like that either. For the other side, yeah, I mean, it was just to keep it uniform so that you don't have it misaligned from one side and, it's popping out from the other side. That was just the intention of keeping it uniform on both sides. Do you have anything?
4 versus 6.
4 versus 6 is, I do acknowledge what you're saying, but with a husky, and I don't know if anybody has a husky on the board, but with them I can tell you he can jump over a 4-foot fence any given day.
One of the things that would be nice if we could pull that fence in is you could put up some evergreens that would not only screen the fence, but you could have a 4-foot fence and then 6-foot arborvitae on the outside, because even if we give you the 6-foot fence, you're going to need to plant 6-foot arborvitae, so you're not going to save any money that way. And if you have it at the lot line, you don't have the ability to plant it between the fence and the other property. So it would seem to me that you're going to have to come in off of the lot line at least on two sides. I'm not sure how we're going to deal with the drive side. But, and if we left it at 4 feet with 6-foot arbs, that would create the barrier that you're looking for the dog and would keep us within the ordinance.
Yeah, I think we can consider doing a 4 foot.
I'm just not sure how you deal with the driveway side of the house.
I mean, we just got the house about a month ago, so we're still unpacking.
You're doing
a
great job. I
Yeah, you
drive
got
by it all
got
the
a lot
time.
going on.
It looks a lot better than it did.
Well,
Great.
No, thank you for that. Yeah, we're still kind of just picking up pace, trying to understand. I honestly did not even know that this is how the meeting went, so I do apologize. I had no clue.
Well, it's a good meeting, though.
we're glad
Oh, it
you're
is,
here.
it is, definitely.
It's a great meeting.
People started off, the first presentation was pretty elaborate, and I was like, okay, I am well prepared.
Well, that's
what I
Mr.
was telling my
Ratner.
wife. I was like, I don't think I have
He's the
prepared well for
professor.
this.
He's big. All right, so let's get some feed, see if anybody wants to talk on this. So let's open this up for the public. Anyone like to speak on this? Okay.
Again, Jeff Sauls, 3114 East Bradford Drive. Not to be repetitive, just going to say again that 6-foot fence, we don't like 4 foot. If it had been presented to the homeowners association, it would have been approved. But the issue of the setbacks, because if it's a dog run, that's up to you. We don't have any issue with that. We just, the 6-foot issue is what we don't want. And a 4-foot with arborvitae around it, as you suggested, that'd be just fine. We'd be happy with that. So, thank you.
We appreciate your consistency in your position. Does anyone else would like to speak? Okay.
Mike Smith, 3571 Berkshire Drive, co-chairman of the Architectural Control Committee. Once again, we have a homeowner who is undergoing a project and has not bothered to approach the Architectural Control or Homeowners Association about the correct process in doing it. They have not presented any application for review. Our guidelines do require 4-foot high fence as opposed to 6-foot high, and there's no mention about any screening that I think would be required also for this. So we would object to the 6-foot high fence, and regardless of the height of the fence, 4 foot or 6 foot, it needs to be screened also.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this?
Good evening. My name is Sal Verano, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. I live in 6663 Losser. I'm their neighbor. I just received a notice last week, and I actually introduced myself last night to Uja and his wife. I welcome to the neighborhood. By the way, we are in Westchester Village jurisdiction, and I had purchased a home, and I had sent to Wade, and if you want to, you can put the pictures up that I sent to you yesterday. I have beautiful arborvitaes that are just behind the property line.
The board
trunk.
members have a copy.
Yeah. Yes, we did have a copy.
There's copies
Yeah.
at their places. They all have a copy of their
Okay,
pictures.
great, yeah.
Yeah.
And so the arborvitaes, there was an elderly lady that lived there. I had asked her, and she was very happy to have the arbs placed. So I put them just behind the property line, and over 8-9 years, they've grown. And then I put a second set, which are a little shorter, and they create a beautiful screen because their side is the south side. My side, unfortunately, is the north side, and they have a beautiful screen. So the two prior tenants, the homeowners, really appreciate it. As a matter of fact, they would put mulch because it created a beautiful entryway to their home. When I had asked Uja to explain to me his thought process, he said he wanted to put a 6-foot fence throughout the perimeter of the home. I said, my concern is my home. I have the property line, if you see there, you could see the flags. If he puts it up against there, it will completely crush the arbs and kill them. Then I had mentioned, would he be considering even moving it to the driveway, the driveway, the cement, which is at the street side is about 18 inches, if much, and then goes to about 24 inches in the back. If you put a 6-foot post, the length is anywhere from 8 to 10 feet length. 4x4 typically is what they use. They're going to go, and whoever is going to do that is going to destroy the root system of these arbs. That is something that I explained to him. He agreed. He thought about it. And also, if you go back further, you'll see 2 other pictures. There is an anomaly in the topography of the land where it actually raises 3 feet above the ground. I don't know what happened, but that's just the way it is. Imagine a 6-foot fence on top of that. It would be 9 feet towering over the property. I didn't move there because I wanted to look at a fence. And it has the back. I love the neighborhood. It's beautiful. They're wonderful people. I just wanted to just share that with them. When I brought him over to my side and I showed him that, he agreed, and he said, you know, at this point, maybe we'll consider just doing arbs and continuing the arbs up into the back and then doing a 6-foot along the back, and then he was going to consider on the neighbor on the other side. I thought that was a reasonable a compromise, and I outlined it to Wade yesterday, the points. 1, I had mentioned about the potential damage to the root system. 2, that if it placed on indeed the property line where his markers are placed, they would have to push the arbs in, and it would kill the arbs. 3, the horizontal slots, if you saw the fence that they're looking at, would partially cover the older ones because they're about 8 feet now. And the younger ones are about 6.5 feet now, would completely obliterate any sun exposure, and they will die. And I would lose my thousands of dollars of my investment, plus the sprinkler system, because I have a drip system. I invested heavily because I wanted to create a green fence for my daughter when she was young to play in the yard with her friends and herself. So then we talked about the mound of dirt, which is 3 feet high, and then that 6-foot fence would be 9 feet above the horizontal. Then I talked about that the shrubbery that's there we had this last ice storm, and it really thinned out the small trees, and you'll see from the picture that I had taken yesterday, there is really no screening. So in theory, if the 6-foot fence was there, the existing foliage, there is no coverage. And then if you go to the property line in the back, there is 0 coverage whatsoever. So we had a pleasant conversation, Ujas and I, and I'm looking forward to being neighbors and getting to know them. But my concern, and I feel really strongly about this, is that putting a 6-foot fence up against my arborvitaes, it will completely kill the investment. He was really empathetic and concerned, and he said that he's willing to put arborvitaes, continue what I did, and at a minimum 6 foot, 7 foot, to continue up and around, and then he was going to ask you if he can put a fence in the back, and then I'm not sure what he wants to do. And then one last thing I wanted to share is that he wants to put a gate in the front, and as one of the members had mentioned, he wants to put it against a wall that's extending from his home, but the anchor has to be once again placed where my arb comes. And when I asked him, he says he wasn't quite sure exactly what the plan was. He's thinking about a retracting fence as opposed to one that opens, but he doesn't have quite the plan yet. And so I'm not sure how that's going to work, but my own concern again with something like that is not so much that he has a fence, you know, I respect that he wants that, but it's more, once again, you need an anchor for that fence, and how is that? And that is the narrow part of my arbs, because the elderly lady that lived there from 1960, she had a dirt road. And then when she passed, the new people then put down the concrete, and that's why it's not straight. There's a deviance, so it's shorter smaller. And so if you put a 6-foot post or whatever it is that the individual needs to put to secure the fence, I'm once again concerned about the root system of my arborvitaes. So here we are. You know, I welcome them. I'm looking forward to get to know them. But I thought the best compromise we had was doing a natural green fence that would go along with the beauty of Westchester Village and Bloomfield Township. We live in a beautiful area, beautiful neighborhood, and as Mr. Saltz had mentioned, we'd like to keep that as well, because when I open up my patio door and I look out and I look at the nature, I appreciate trees. That's why I live in Bloomfield Township. I don't like to see 9-foot obstructions or 6-foot fences or killing my investment that I made. So that's where I stand. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak on this item? So I'll close the public hearing and have the applicant come back and respond to the public comments.
Sure. Yeah, I think I'll probably start off with Sal. Yeah, we did meet yesterday, and like I said, right, totally underprepared for this. Had no idea what I was doing. We did have this conversation. He mentioned the trees to me yesterday, but the agenda kind of was like, this is what you're looking for, so that's why I kind of stuck to that without making a change. But yes, I was definitely I'm not of the opinion of putting a 6-foot fence on his side. That would definitely kill the trees. So we were discussing this last night. So we did keep 2 options, like Sal's mentioned, right? We had the 4-foot with an aluminum post thing, and this is all me and her Google searching things. I do want to mention that, right? It's not I've gone out and talked to somebody and given me how things are going to be and everything. So we definitely when Sal told us about all this, we were like, okay, you know what? We can't just let the plants over there die. So we thought of either just extending the trees out to the back and then doing the 6-foot from the backyard, because it's open for him to run on the other side. And then on the right side, we were like, okay, maybe a 4 or 6. Like, I want to make sure it's uniform at this point. So literally, as you can see, all over the place. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what we talked about. And the problem that I have with just doing the trees, and we were talking about that this morning, is it doesn't really help me keep him in from him not running over to Sal's backyard or the neighbor next door or the DTE station next door. I think that they have a fence, so we should be fine over there. But that's why we were like, okay, you know what, maybe we do a 4 towards the inside of our property line, and then just, just maybe we'll probably have an agreement or some documentation with Sal, and I was going to talk to him about this after the meeting. Can I do it inside, like he suggested?
So we could potentially, if you want to, postpone to the next meeting.
You're reading my mind.
So that you can come up with a new plan, see if you want to move it in.
Yeah, you've gotten a lot of feedback tonight, and I don't want you to feel overwhelmed. And I think maybe you need to absorb all this. Talk to your wife. Apply the feedback, because I think it's been good, and I think you've kind of hinted at some compromises that make sense. But obviously, the 4-foot fence is much better, and when you put one up, it's going to have to be screened.
And even if you really think, your husky's going to jump over the 4-foot, then make your 6-foot plan, but bring it in so that you can have trees that are 6 feet tall or taller.
That's what I was thinking, right? Even from a standpoint of maintaining them, do it inside the fence.
It would have to be on the outside. The trees have to go on the outside of the fence.
Still learning all this. I do apologize.
It's okay. You'll find that if you spend some time with the association leadership,
yeah, they'll help you.
2 of which are here, plus your next door neighbor.
They've seen it all.
You'll be able to come up with a plan that not only will they be pleased with, but you'll probably be very pleased with. And it's a good way to. It's not welcome wagon, but it's at least a good way to get introduced to the neighborhood.
Oh, that's totally fair.
So come back next month. You're okay with that?
Would you like us to postpone? Yeah.
Okay.
Because I think I'm open. To be honest with you, I'm okay with doing a 4-foot across with the trees.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to postpone and have you come back next month.
Support.
Motion to postpone and support. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Sure.
The request is postponed.
America, I love it.
So we'll call the next item.
Number 9.
Yeah, we were not, I mean, like I said, right, still unpacking. Been a month.
You're fine.
You're good.
Didn't
No, no.
didn't
Yeah, next
know
time.
we
We're
were
here to
supposed
help.
submit things to the homeowners
Yeah.
association.
Bring
and-
popcorn.
We're not like some other zoning boards that are very judgmental and mean. We're nice.
No, I forgot to respond to all the comments.
We're-
I do
we're nice.
apologize for that, so, yeah.
Can I ask Andrea?
We're here to help.
Are you allowed a fence in an easement? I mean, even legally?
Depends on if there's conditions
You're
imposed
allowed.
on the easement.
That's what the
You're
easement
allowed,
says.
it's just that you don't have any rights to preserve it if they want to take it down.
Yeah.
Right.
You're taking a risk that you would be required to remove it if something were to occur.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd just say as a lawyer that I play on TV, I don't think it's a good idea to
Number
put a fence
9.
across the
A lawyer, you play on TV.
So we're calling the next item.
We have several of those.
Item 9, 1572 Ledbury.
I'm Jim Artis, 1572 Ledbury Drive. And as you can see in the photos, we purchased this home December of '21, and we inherited the hybrid fence, where some of it is 6-foot vinyl currently, and some of it is 6-foot wooden stockade fencing. The original variance approved the 6-foot wooden stockade fencing, and it is in fact now very decrepit. There are gaps, boards that are falling away, and the entirety of the structure is leaning. It's held together with a lot of zip ties and wire, also inherited.
So did you say there was a variance for that?
Yes, from 1977.
Is that, we fact-checked that? That was,
There was for a wooden stockade fence.
so I'd like the names of the people that approved that.
They're not with us anymore.
They
Okay.
went on to become township supervisor.
Oh, really? Okay.
Well, I have a copy of it here, but I don't have the...
No, that's okay. I'm just,
Definitely joking.
I'm goofing around, I'm sorry.
Yes, so you can see we have contracted with a fencing contractor and purchased the 6-foot white vinyl. Subsequently, when the permit was denied for change of material, we were informed that we needed a variance. And so here we are.
Okay.
So-
And I'll just say, probably in 1977, that was sort of the standard. There was a lot more of that.
So
Very well
so
be,
the-
yes.
The current situation is we have a really deteriorated 6-foot wood fence.
Correct.
Yeah.
And if you go to the opposite view, sorry, there's a view from,
Whoa.
you can see that on this side, is the
It's kind of
fence
leaning.
is situated atop a berm that is held in by slate stone, and there's some significant erosion from that side as well. So our proposed to move the fence a few feet to the outside to eliminate that eyesore and the unstable earth. And it actually lowers the total height of the fencing by moving it off of that 2-foot berm. So, from yard level. It's hard to see, but there's about a 3-foot rise going up to that section of the yard.
So, really, the major theme for tonight is screening.
Yes,
So what's your feeling about screening?
absolutely in favor of 6-foot arbor vitae.
That's a great answer. It's outstanding.
Are you leading the witness?
Yeah, I kind of am. So I'll open the public hearing for this. Does anyone like to comment on this fence? All right, so I'll close the public hearing, bring it back. So I think we got the 5-star answer.
One addition, I do also have a letter from the HOA approving replacement of that fence.
Okay. Thank you, that's,
Yes, we received it 2 days ago.
Oh,
That's
okay.
the-
Thank you.
Mr.
Just
Chairman,
for
let's-
record.
let's-
Thank you.
is HOA approval.
Let's move this along.
let's move along.
With that having been said, I would like to make a motion regarding the request for dimensional variance at 1572 Ledbury Drive. I would move the variance be approved as requested based on the information presented. The applicant has demonstrated all the standards for practical difficulty. Compliance with the strict letter of the ordinance would be unduly burdensome because we're actually replacing an existing fence that is in serious deterioration and is likely to create more problems if not addressed. There is no injustice to the adjoining neighbors by reason of the replacement, and in fact, it will enhance the view of, or the the property values of the surrounding homes. We will be having evergreen screening added. Unique circumstances have been demonstrated. We have a 6-foot-high fence that's falling apart, and that certainly is not something that's created. It happens to all of us when we get old. In any case, if this is approved, if this motion is approved, application for all necessary permits must be made within 1 year, and all permits made obtained prior to installation. I am going to require evergreen screening on the exterior of the fence, and the finished side of the fence is also to be on the exterior as well.
Support.
Motion and support. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, your request is granted.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your cooperation. So we're calling item 10, 4230 Kerry Lane.
Hi, Teresa Solomon. We've been residents here for 23 years. And our 4234, Barb is our association president. And they were item number 3. And I'm here to ask for approval for a pool pavilion. And
Wait a minute, just because we put it up there, the third bullet is not part of the...
No, it isn't.
Okay.
Gillette Pool Company already submitted for the permit for the
Okay.
pool equipment, so it's not part of the proposal.
All right.
And I'm here to ask for a pool pavilion designed by Alexander Bogart, and no setback variance, just a height variance to match the existing elevation of the rear of the home, and there should be pictures that show that. And also for perhaps a pickle court. We're not sure if we're going to do it, but we thought we would ask for permission.
And there's no netting around your pickleball court?
No netting. There's a fence, the code fence for the pool around our entire home.
Right.
There is screening already by the pool area, and these are just the different elevations. So the view to the west would be looking at the pickle court. The view to the east would be where the proposed pool pavilion would be. And it really is kind of parallel to item number 3's accessory garage structure.
All right, any questions from the board?
No, but if you do decide to do the pickleball court, understand that exterior lighting for the court would require a variance and is not something we normally grant.
So there will be no lighting, overhead lighting, just there, if you go back to the picture with the proposal, just landscape lighting.
Sure.
Any other questions from the board? Open the public hearing. Anyone like to comment?
And I did get association approval, by the way, and asked the neighbors that are not part of our association, but in the rear.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we're going to have public comment now, so you'll have to yield the podium.
Hi, Steve Murdoch, 4234 Kerry Lane, spoke earlier. We are the neighbors directly to the west of the Solomons. So it wasn't really apparent from some of the pictures, but their yard is heavily, heavily wooded all around the perimeter. I think some of these might have been taken in the fall. But quite honestly, we are the neighbors that have the clearest view into their backyard, and it's still very heavily screened. We have no problem with what they've done. They've got a beautiful home. Their proposed cabana is going to match the architecture and the materials of that, and they've already done a bunch of screening around their pool, so I'm sure they're going to take care of whatever needs to be done there. So that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else that'd like to speak on this item? So I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the board. Discussion?
I think it looks lovely. You've done a nice job. I'd like to make a motion to approve, first of all, the permission request in regard to the appeal at 4230 Kerry Lane for the accessory structure pool house. I move it would be approved as submitted, Based on the information provided, the applicant did demonstrate compliance with Section 42.76 standards. The size of the accessory structure, both the pickleball, the sport court, and the pool cabana are in scale with the neighborhood and in keeping with the kinds of amenities that we're commonly seeing, appropriate to the neighborhood. The location will not hinder or discourage the use of adjacent property due to the screening you already have, and is harmonious with the neighborhood as attested by a neighbor approval. I would also move to approve the dimensional variance in regard to the appeal at the same address. For the height variance, I move be approved as requested. Based on the information presented, the applicant did demonstrate all standards for practical difficulty. Because compliance with the strict letter of the ordinance would be unduly burdensome, it would limit the architectural matching of the structure to the house, which is also no injustice to adjoining neighbors. They're used to what the house looks like, and it's an appropriate size and bulk. Should the motion pass, application for all necessary permits must be made within 1 year. All permits must be obtained prior to construction. As stated, no illumination would be permitted on the sport court, and it is limited to daytime hours. And I think we have said additional evergreen screening would not be necessary for the current setting.
Support.
I have a motion and support. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, your request is granted. Calling item 11, 1760 Hamilton Road.
Good evening. My name is Hisham Turk. I'm the architect actually working on this project. And we have Mr. Bilal Shakfa is the owner. He wants to join me here. This is a house on 1760 Hamilton Drive on Square Lake, and this is a new design, a new building that we are proposing, and we are seeking the following variances. A ground-mounted mechanical unit and an air conditioner located in the rear yard and encouraging 11 feet into the required 16 feet easterly side yard setback. A new home, the new home that we designing there, encouraging 11 feet into the required 16 feet easterly side yard setback, and encouraging 6 feet into the required 16 feet westerly side yard setback, and encouraging 8 feet into the required 40 feet front yard setback. The new house is also encouraging 25 feet into the required 100 feet lakefront average setback. Also, we have retaining walls in the rear yard. The 3 feet high retaining walls proposed in the rear yard and located closer than 8 feet to the property line. We are asking for these variances as because if strictly compliancing with the zoning ordinances will result in a very small house, which will be looking very odd in that neighborhood. It's the size of the houses, and that's we try to match the same size of the houses in that neighborhood, so it will be looking similar to there. And the neighborhood, the houses in the neighborhood also, they were requested the same similar variances which they obtained. Also of course, the appearance of the house will be matching that, and it will be look better to.
Do you have the dimensions of the lot and the acreage? What are the?
I have it on the site plan. I think.
What's the house?
It's hard to read.
And the site plan
I can't see because my. I don't have it blown up. What's the width of, how many feet?
Looks like it's about 70.
I have the site plan drawings in the car. If you want, I can bring it.
We have them here.
Okay.
Looks like it's 71 at the water line.
Oh yeah, there it is up there. You're right, 71.
Nice to see the houses right next to this.
What's that?
See the houses adjacent to this, where they sit.
What was that?
Nice to see where the other houses adjacent to this property sit.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
we
the
can't tell
aerials.
100-foot
Can't tell.
down
Show it.
where the houses are at.
You gotta look at the aerials.
Andrea, would you mind showing the aerial?
It's a point. The site, the property is 0.28 acres, which is
I'm sorry, it's point
0.28.
28, okay.
We got a little bit of a dip.
It's about
There's another
12,136 square feet.
And it's 70 feet wide approximately, 71?
It is.
He doesn't need a house.
The smallest lot on the street.
Yeah,
Just want to make sure
it's a
here.
tough lot.
Yeah, 71 and a half wide, and the length is 152 from one side and 162 from the other side.
Okay.
71 by 150.
Well, it's a tough call. I mean, the larger houses that you reference around you
Bigger
are
lots.
on larger lots.
Lots.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like twice the size.
Our neighbor on 1750 is similar size property, and they had the same. They built a new house over there also in 1750, and they got the same type of variances for that. 1740 is larger. The other ones, the other two houses also, they are larger houses and small properties.
Yep, you're right, you can tell by the... Any other questions from the board?
No.
I'll open the public hearing. Anyone like to comment on this item?
Hi, my name is Kirk Brannick. I reside at 1642 Hamilton Drive. I'm the president of the Square Lake Association, but I also own 1768 Hamilton, which is lot 1 and 2. And you're correct, the width of that lot is 71 feet. The home that is currently at 1760 Hamilton, to be frank, is an eyesore. It's a dump. We would love to see it demolished. And we worked with the applicant, and we are okay with the variance. It's a large variance, we understand that, but we feel it'll be an improvement to the neighborhood. Our biggest issue, which you can't address this board, is the fact that the seawall that is against the water is falling into the lake. We're addressing that with the applicants, and they're working with Eagle on that right now. So we're happy with that. So I'm very familiar with the previous variances that have been granted, why those were granted. If those questions are coming up from the board, I have a lot of history with the association. So if they have to come back up, I'm more than happy to answer any questions the board may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else would like to speak on this?
Yeah. I'm the co-owner of the lot. So the house that's on 1750 was just built, and it was, like they mentioned, was awarded the same variances.
Okay, so not necessarily relevant here, and you're the co-owner, so that's interesting. So you've really had two different...
My brother, yeah.
Okay, so what a dynamic duo, two brothers on the water.
He's helping me. I'm funding it. He's building it.
Okay, I don't need to know that,
need
sorry.
to know that. You wanted to.
What great brothers. I'd like to meet your parents, that you're helping them fund this house, so good for you.
Is one of you going to live there, or is
Your
it a
parents.
stack?
Him and my mom will be living there.
Oh, that's...
Such a nice place.
What a great son you are. Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad you got a chance to speak, because it's very unusual to have a co-owner come up and talk. So, All right, anyone else would like to speak? It's not a co-owner. We'll close the public hearing. Would you like to respond? I mean, that was very favorable. So it sounds like you've done good work with your association.
We don't have yet. We are already talked many times with Sir Kirk, and we try to.
So we'd like to
do that project.
applaud you for doing that, because you saw some other instances tonight where that didn't happen. So, all right, bring it back to the board then.
I'm going to make a motion.
Yep. Thank you, Bob.
Mr. Chairman, with regard to the request for dimensional variance at 1760 Hamilton Drive, I'm going to move that the variance be approved as requested based on the information presented. The applicant has demonstrated all the standards for practical difficulty. Compliance with the strict letter of the ordinance would be unduly burdensome. These lots, I'm going to guess, were originally platted when Square Lake was not occupied by permanent residences, but more likely summer residences. That's why there's smaller lots, smaller properties, smaller houses. This neighborhood has certainly transformed over the decades, as we can see by the aerial here. And in order for this lot to be, something on this lot to be appropriate for the neighborhood, it cannot be compliant with the ordinance. There is no injustice to the adjoining neighbors. In fact, this does help to enhance the value of the neighborhood. Unique circumstances of the property, I think, have been given by the change in how the properties are used from summer residences to a year-round occupant, and that certainly is not something that's been self-created. It's just the change over time. With that having been said, application for all necessary permits must be made within 1 year. I'm going to let the issue of evergreen screening slide, because at this point,
There's no room left for it.
there's no room left for it. And I think it actually is almost commensurate with the neighborhood.
No, I don't get any argument from anybody, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
So normally I would have opposed this, but it was very obvious in the discussion, and the
Yeah,
gentleman.
so I just want to comment that
So wait a minute, did we have a second?
He had a
Sorry,
second,
motion,
yeah, we had a
All right, so
second.
now we're discussing the motion, good?
Yes, discussing the motion. So obviously, we try to accommodate residents as much as we can, but there's a reason why we have these setbacks. Bloomfield Township, we have large properties, typically the smaller home. Now we are seeing these larger homes being built, which, you know, it is what it is. But the biggest issue I have really is the encroaching on the lakefront. There's a reason why we have 100 feet, and part of that is to protect the lake, and probably part of why you wanted to purchase that property was because of the lake, and issues with runoff from the lawn and having cement and, you know, not having the water absorbed, those sorts of issues. So I am going to be opposed to this.
I'm suffering with the same kinds of issues. My sense is that this house is just a little too large. I appreciate the association's happy. I see some amount of engineering and grading shown on this drawing, but the amount of, for me, side setbacks for the kinds of water events we've been having and where that water's going, which is going to be in the lake, even getting lawn equipment back down the side of this property with the amount of setback that's proposed on each side. I'm not in favor of a house this size, quite.
Well, and I thought about all those things too, because when you first read it, it seems like there's variances in all directions, which isn't typical. But then when you look at the visual, and I listened to the association, to me that kind of swung me back that this truly is unique, and kind of even where it's located on the bend in the road there, I have some issue with the distance from the water, but again, they're going to fix the seawall. I'm kind of looking at the totality of the challenge that's involved with it, and then just kind of the world we live in today with the size of home.
I also think there's a historical I don't know for certain, but I would guess when these were built, there was not city sewer on the property, and so the setback requirement was to accommodate septic. In this instance, we've got water and sewer, and I don't think we need to be as concerned about that as before. This is one of those fascinating areas inside the township that transformed from casual use to permanent use.
Right.
I can remember when the number of large homes on the lake was substantially less than it is now.
Like almost every lake in Oakland County.
And I
now.
think I see this as the only solution to this would be to acquire the lot next door.
That's what I was going to say. You want to sell them the property?
And it looks like, I would even argue that it looks like
He's going to need another brother for
1740
that.
is
He's going to have to get another.
1740 may actually be where that's been done. I don't know that for sure, but
What it looks like.
it would look like that is a combined lot as well. And it's just one of those things that as land use has changed, the ordinance has found itself out of sync with that change. So I'm going to.
I just want to make one comment to that.
I appreciate the opposition, because I got to tell you, when I first read it, it was like, nah, there's no way.
Right, and that's what I thought.
But just with regard to the ordinances, we just updated our generator ordinance. So, I mean, I will say Patty Volker does an amazing job with the department, and when there are significant changes in the township, we are updating our ordinances, and these ordinances haven't been changed, and there's a reason for that. So.
Yeah, I think if they address the seawall issue, it'll take care of mitigating.
All right, so we
I have a question. I'm assuming that the distance to the lake is equivalent to the other homes
Yes.
near it?
Maybe less, there are other homes closer to the lake.
The other homes are closer?
Yes.
I mean, this is very unusual.
I mean, not a lot closer, like a couple feet, 3 feet.
Do you want to just comment on the distance from the water, from the...
The homes on Maplewood, unfortunately, are added into the 500. Yeah, I can comment on the setback from the lake. The homes to the left, 1771, 1774 on Maplewood, a completely different street.
Right.
So the sight lines to the lake
I'm
are
not saying
not.
that. I'm saying that just like you, the middle property that we're discussing, as well as your brother.
Okay.
They're all relatively in a line, correct?
Yes, in fact, we have the sight lines posted.
Thank you.
Corners of the property, and they're good.
Thank you.
And also, I want to add, there is also an existing storage area, which is in front of the existing old house that in the property. It's more closer to the lake than what we're going to build.
And that's going to be gone. Okay, thank you for clarifying it.
Thank you.
All right, so we have any other discussions? That was just amazing discussion, I want to say. Best discussion post-making a motion I've ever heard, so way to go. All right, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
I'm opposed.
Aye.
So do a roll call?
Sure. Fakih?
No.
O'Donnell?
Yes.
Ford?
Yes.
Meads?
No.
Henry?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Gittleman?
Yes.
So the motion passed 5 to 2.
Okay, so congratulations, your request is granted. Thank you for all that great information.
It's good to watch the history.
All right, so we're calling item 12, 6816 Oak Hills.
Good evening, and thank you for your time. I'm Jeff Klatt with Krieger Klatt Architects, 2120 East 11 Mile Road in Royal Oak. I'm here with the homeowners, Mike and Megan Parks, who are with us this evening. And we are requesting a 5-yard dimensional variance to construct an addition within the rear yard of their property. And just a few items before we discuss the design. Number one, we did receive full neighborhood approval from the Oakland Hills Country Club Subdivision Association back in March 7th. And I'd also like to point out, too, that an identical variance was approved back in 2014. Again, a 5-foot rear yard variance for a nearly similar design. So this was approved back in 2014, but never constructed, obviously. From a design standpoint, as you can see on the site plan drawing here, the gray shading represents the proposed addition. Again, it's single story. The yellow represents the area of encroachment into the rear yard. Addition single story in nature, and we did our best to conceal it behind the home, primarily to shield it from the public way. These are some renderings around the property. Again, it's meant to be seamless, to integrate, to tie into the existing context of the home, to not detract from it. From a floor plan standpoint, if we have those with us, The current design is just a bit compartmentalized, and the idea was to open the plan up a bit more. So again, it'd be a enlarged kitchen, a new family room space, and a covered loggia with a small dining room component. Again, just to make the house a bit more modern. Items that are comparable in new homes today. We feel practical difficulty exists. When the home was initially constructed, an artesian well was uncovered that was encapsulated and the water diverted, but it forced the Parks to push the home to the south and the west. So a 40-foot setback is required at the front. Their home is now 53.1 feet set back a bit, so they had to push it back. So again, if they could have constructed the home at the 40-foot line, we probably wouldn't be here this evening. So due to that practical difficulty, they had to sit the house back a bit.
Thanks very much. Very helpful presentation. Any questions from the board? I'll open this to public comment. Is there anyone like to speak on this request? Close public comment. Bring it back to the board.
I can make a motion if there's no questions.
Okay.
So with regard to the appeal at 6816 for the dimensional variance, I'm going to move that it be approved as requested based on the information presented. The applicant did demonstrate all the standards for practical difficulty because compliance with the strict letter of the ordinance would be unduly burdensome because of the topography of the home and the water issues that they have there. There is no injustice to the adjoining neighbors by reason of the fact that the subdivision association over there has approved this, and we have heard no people in opposition this evening. Unique circumstances with the property have been demonstrated, again, given the topography and the water table and the issues that presents. And none of this is self-created due to the reasons stated. I will just add that all necessary permits should be made within 1 year and should be obtained prior to construction.
Thank you.
Support.
So I have a motion and support. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations, your request is granted.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Calling item 14, 5232 Van Ness.
Good evening, Matt Mosier, representing the homeowners at 5232 Van Ness. Simple request, I think. This is a covered patio on the back of their house. It will include a fireplace underneath it, as well as a barbecue area with a small pergola that comes off the side of it. This particular improvement is well within the setbacks and is designed to be in keeping with the architecture of the house. Because of the nature of this particular improvement and its architectural enhancement to the house, I don't think that really planting any evergreens would do anything except detract from it. So that'd be my request on this. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Would you say it's visible to neighbors?
What do you think?
The way our home is
Can you come up here? Thank you.
Hi, I'm Donna Metzger. I'm the owner of 5232. The way our home is set up, you can see in the proposed location view to north, you can't even see the home that is north of us. And the home that's south of us is the same thing. We are set back farther on the lot than the other two homes. Yeah. See that? So,
oh yeah.
And many of our neighbors, even our neighbors on the back street of Diana, received this notice and have had positive things to say to us about our addition.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So I'll open this for public comment. Close public comment, bring it back for a motion.
I'll make a motion in regard to the appeal at 5232 Van Ness Drive for the permission request for the proposed pergolas and fireplace. I move that the request be approved as submitted. Based on the information presented, the applicant did demonstrate compliance with section 42-7.6 standards because use of the accessory structure is appropriate to the neighborhood as well as it does not hinder or discourage adjacent use of property. If approved, the motion must include application for all necessary permits, must be made within 1 year, and all permits must be obtained prior to construction. Additional evergreen screenings may be required to screen the pergola from public view if necessary.
Support.
I have motion and support. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, your request is granted. So calling item 15, 736 Westview.
How you doing? Brent Opacek, 736 Westview. This is for the placement of a garden shed we have in the corner of the lot there. The need for having it closer to the property line than would be liked is the existing structure is, the whole back lot is kind of really overgrown, and we're in the process of getting it updated. But on the far west side where this exists, the neighbor to that side has about 30 feet worth of forsythia and trees and stuff on that side blocking the view there. The southern side is actually blocked by the neighbor with evergreens. I can't remember what exactly is there. And then for the placement of where it is in terms of the rest of the yard, the middle of the yard where we could put it is where we're actually planning on putting, and have actually since this week placed a play set for my children. And then the far west side or the far east side would be in direct view of where the driveway is. So it's the best location of keeping it behind the house, directly behind the house, and outside the view of where most places are. We do have plans this spring, as we're updating on the landscaping, to put arborvitae in the front of it as well.
So that arborvitae will have it screened?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board? Open this up for public comment. Close public comment, bring it back to the board. So the screening is helpful. We have a motion maker.
I'll make a motion.
Pushing to the finish line.
With respect to the appeal at 736 Westview, permission request, I move I need my permission request. The appeal be granted for the accessory structure as submitted. Based on the information presented, the applicant did demonstrate compliance with Section 42.76 standards because the size of the accessory structure is modest and very compatible with the property and adjoining structures. The location of the accessory structure will not hinder or discourage use of the adjacent property where it's tucked in, and it will be harmonious with the neighborhood and the existing architecture. I also move that a dimensional variance be granted at the same address for the encroachment into the side yard. I move it be approved as submitted based on the information presented. The applicant did demonstrate all standards for practical difficulty because, as I see, the side yard angling there makes the distance to the side yard different than what the house would be. And that is not self-created. It's really due to the unique wedge shape of the lot. Should the appeals be granted, the application for all necessary permits must be made within 5 days due to the existing condition, and the shed must be screened from public view 24 months of the year.
12.
12 months.
I don't know if I can meet that.
It must be double screened.
That's the Egyptian calendar.
Support.
So I have a motion and
For the
support.
24 months especially.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations, request is granted. You've been working too hard. Cramming.
Mush.
Yeah.
My brain is mush.
Cramming it all.
That's a double support.
Yeah, 24 months.
Item 16.
Good evening, board members. My name's Dan McLeish Jr. with McLeish Building, and representing Mr. Chuck Bowers at 3861 North Adams. We're here to ask for, well, real quick, brief history. He's been a resident in another community. We were getting ready to build a new home in Birmingham, and he bought this house as a temporary home, and now he loves it so much. Great yard, great neighbors, great streets. So
Better community.
Yeah, I was going to say Birmingham, Bloomfield Township. You want Bloomfield
I've worked in
Township.
both. This is much
Yeah.
better.
yes, sir. Yeah.
Their zoning board meetings are not like this.
These are, I definitely would say, well, we'll leave.
They're better. Yeah.
I'm trying to think for the
Yeah,
rest.
you have to go back there, so we're not going to quote you, so that's okay.
You know, there. So
Go ahead.
just a quick brief history. So likes the home so much. So wanted to put a 200 square foot addition on the existing home. We did a survey. We see that it was non-conforming from whatever year it was built. So at where the existing house is now, we're about 1.5 feet out of the setback. We're asking for, as you see, the 3-foot variance for this, and basically just kind of here to ask for a modest
De minimis.
variance, please.
De minimis, okay.
So I just want to make sure that I'm clear. The encroachment that you're proposing, is already exists, right? It's just because you're building something new.
Yes, some of it does exist. Where the yellow.
Yeah, you can see, it's an extension, it's taking it out a little more, but
Oh, perfect.
Red button.
they're already,
So basically, that is existing part right there.
right.
So that's 1.5 feet into the setback.
Okay.
Approximately. And then at the end of the proposal, that's, I think it's like 2.17 feet.
So
at
that's
that.
the addition, the 2.17 is the max?
Yes,
that it's-
correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
That way.
Any other questions? So I'll open the public comment. Close public comment, bring it back. Quick motion.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
In regards to the appeal at 3861 North Adams Road for the dimensional variance required for a home addition encroaching 3 feet into the required 16-foot easterly side yard setback and for expanding an existing nonconformity. I move that this variance be approved as requested. Based on the information presented, the applicant did demonstrate all standards for practical difficulty because compliance with the strict letter of the ordinance would be unduly burdensome due to the fact the home is already non-conforming, and it is no injustice to the adjoining neighbors. No one's going to really notice that. And the unique circumstances of the property have been demonstrated given the fact that there's already this existing encroachment into the setback, and it is not self-created. If approved, the motion must include application for all necessary permits to be made within 1 year, and all permits must be obtained prior to construction.
Support.
Motion and support, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, your request is granted.
Thank you, appreciate it very much.
Calling item 17, 293 Eileen.
Good evening. My name is Ian Holland from 293 Eileen. I'm looking for approval for a shed to be installed in my backyard, just to house some yard equipment, some outdoor toys. I do have a 1-year-old that is gaining a lot of toys for the outdoors, and I need more space for him, so I would like approval for the shed.
Do you have any screening planned?
I will be having screening at least facing the north towards the street to install some arborvitae.
So as a condition, we typically say it's got to be screened from public review, so you're aware of that and good with that?
Yep.
Okay, so I'll open the public comment. Any on that? Close public comment, bring it back.
I can make a motion.
Okay.
In regard to the appeal at 293 Eileen Drive, the accessory structure, I move the request be approved as submitted. Based on the information presented, the applicant did demonstrate compliance with section 42-7.6 standards. The size of the accessory structure is compatible with adjoining properties, and as long as this is screened properly, it's not visible from the neighbors. If approved, the motion must include application for all necessary permits must be made within 1 year, and all permits must be obtained prior to construction. Additional evergreen screening will be required to screen the shed from public view.
Support.
Motion and support, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, your request is granted.
Thank you.
Item 18, 4467 Stony River. Great Street.
Good street.
Well, I'm Lynn Kavanaugh with Four Seasons Garden Center Custom Landscape Services, here to represent the homeowners, the Richardsons, at 4467 Stony River Drive. We are proposing to put in a pavilion that is within the setback. In fact, the closest it is 20 feet away from the side yard setback. And patio, it is not visible from the street. There's existing green landscape materials you can see from the pictures on either side of it. And I do not know of any. They talk with their neighbors. The neighbors are very happy about it, that the house is being cleaned up because it was not lived in for a long time and
Yeah.
very overgrown.
Any questions from the board? Yeah, I live on Wing Lake Road and walk by there all the time, so cleaning up's big plus. Open up public comment. Close public comment, bring it back to the board.
I'll make a motion here. With regard to the request at 4467 Stony River Drive, I move that it be approved as submitted based on the information. The applicant did demonstrate compliance with section 42-7.6 standards. The location of this proposed pavilion will not hinder or discourage the adjacent use of property due to the fact that it is going to be well within the setbacks and it is screened from public view. I'll add that all necessary permits should be made within 1 year and obtained prior to construction. And I will just note that if for whatever reason the evergreens that are there now die, additional evergreens will have to be placed so that it cannot be seen by the public.
Support. Motion and support. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, your request is granted. And the very patient, number 19, 4060 West Maple.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Brian Nager with Nager Companies. We are building a new office building. Yeah, you heard that right, in this market of the tough office market, but we feel like we have a phenomenal location at Maple and Telegraph. Great location in a great city. So we're here to hopefully get approved a rooftop amenity for our building. So it's about a 900 square foot structure, and it requires ingress and egress, 2 stairwells and an elevator. So should I go through the whole? Okay.
Yeah, why don't you explain a little bit more about the use, right? So we're familiar with the site. There was some approval, so this is a change, I think, and maybe you need to explain that a little bit more.
I'll try to give you a little bit of background. So we also own 4050 West Maple, which is in front of that, better known as the Emcura Urgent Care Building. So the two are being combined with shared parking, and this will be the new office, 2-story, approximately 8,000 square feet per floor with a basement. So we felt like this would be a really good amenity in a very changing office environment. What we were seeing is a lot of the office markets now going downtown to going to work has become very difficult, and people want to stay home and work. This gives an option to stay closer to home. And a lot of companies that we've noticed, larger companies that may have offices downtown, are taking smaller offices here and allowing their people to work closer to home. So even though it may be a large company, they may take 2,000 or 3,000 square feet and allow 4 to 10 employees that work out of that office a few days a week. So with that changing work environment, we feel like there's a desire, a need for amenities in the office. Some office buildings are putting, full service cafeterias, fitness centers. So we may do a small fitness center even in the basement just as an amenity to the building, but we thought that this would be great. And again, with the phenomenal location in a great city, with a Class A office building that we are, really sparing no expense on because of the location and everything else, and we just think it's going to be a product that will last. So with the market the way it is and changing, we thought that building this ordinary office building, although it would look spectacular, we want it to function for a long period of time. And with the way that market is going, I feel like this will be a great amenity for a building, and it will make it sort of timeless, is what I think. So in addition to, building a Class A building, I just think this will position it well for the future. So in doing so, we built we would like to build this rooftop amenity. So it consists of some outdoor space. Obviously, you've got your mechanicals that are on top of the building. So that's that large rectangle in the middle of the building. That's actually going to have a screen wall around it. So all those mechanicals will be screened. A little deceptive to look at it from a bird's eye view, but imagine that rectangle having a 6-foot-high aluminum sort of structure around it. So that's sort of what you'll be seeing from there, if you can imagine that. And then you'll see a stairwell. That's the one at the 0 lot line on the east side. And then there will be another stairwell on the west side, which is closer to the elevator. So that's the sort of penthouse structure right there. So I can run through these variances if you'd like me to, that we're requesting.
Does anybody?
Or if you're familiar with them?
I
we
mean,
can just
I am,
open it up
but
for questions.
I'm fine.
they're not.
I see them.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, then I think we're good.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll open this up to the public. Anyone like to comment on it? Close the public hearing. So this has nothing to do with the request, but I think your thinking is good. I mean, you know, so I'm aware, I've certainly seen a lot of law firms that have done exactly, you know, what you said, where they've contracted space, and really, if you look, and these are sort of, you know, old traditional, they want fun space. They have, you know, beer coolers, and there's a fireplace, and, you know, hypothetically, you could have a major golf tournament close by and have a nice hospitality event at the top of this office building and then walk to the golf. You know, that's just hypothetical, but that actually could happen here because you're so close. So.
Well, great comments, and in planning this, I love that idea. We did get unanimous approval from the Planning Commission and the Design Review Board, and some of the discussion that we had with Andrea and Patty were, you know, we recognize the fact that, you know, there is a neighborhood there. Any events that would be, you know, to what you're speaking, maybe an event or a golf would fall under a special approval. So we would be coming back here for any of those type events. We want to be, you know, sensitive to the neighborhood around us. So anything that was outside of normal business hours for the office building or use by the existing tenants in the building, we would come forth and get some sort of special approval for that. So.
And that's a very, very tough site, just the layout of the, you know, that's right. So.
It's been sitting vacant for a long time.
Yeah, good
So
for you.
is the parking lot contiguous with M. Cura?
Yes.
So I know you're asking for a,
Then we also,
parking variance.
with the Bloomfield Medical Village to the north, again, in working with planning here, we agreed to do a connection there. So not only are we connecting water for the fire department, which, you know, connects a loop over there, that's a great thing, but we're also going to create that access there. A little difficult if you're traveling east on Maple to get in and out of that building. The Bloomfield Medical Village only has one entrance there on Telegraph, so their site is pretty restricted. This should help the flow of traffic for everyday customers or patrons of the office buildings, as well as police, fire, etc. So.
Well, that's what I was going to observe. It seems like a good synergy in that while we're maybe short on 3 parking spaces, that there's some shared amenity and benefit from those connections you explained. Thank you.
And, you know, just again, to summarize this, we've gone through this and we've looked at it and we've fine-tuned things, and, you know, working with the team here. Originally, we had something much larger. It got scaled down. It got scaled down again. We came in front. We spoke with the neighbors. We agreed to doing some additional landscaping, and you know, which would help with sound and, you know, things like that, and certain hours. So it's been a pretty lengthy process.
Yeah, and I'll commend you on that, because I see there were some people opposed at prior meetings. I actually have a question for the staff with regard to the timing that they've agreed on. That's something that's already enforced that the ZBA doesn't have to address, right? The hours.
That actually be part of the overall comprehensive report that goes to the Township Board within the next couple of weeks.
Got it.
But you're just looking at the specific variances tonight.
So I'll see you there too. Okay.
Any other questions?
Is that big enough to put a pickleball court on? Pickleball courts are big, too.
It better be indoors.
We could do one of those in the basement.
Oh, wow, okay.
We've got 12, 13-foot ceilings, I think, in the basement. So.
Golf simulator? There you go. I got a million ideas. what you could do. Okay, sorry.
Well, all of them require this height setback, and I have to say, it sounds like you've been through all the other boards, and I don't see an issue with the unique height differences that you're asking for. They are providing amenities that, you know, don't necessarily normally fit under
Right,
our
right,
ordinance.
right.
It's only a two-story building. I think it's an enhancement. I'm in favor.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion.
Great.
So, in regard to the dimensional variance, the appeal at 4060 West Maple Road for the required variance for the elevator exceeding 14 feet, the deficient 3 parking spaces, elevator shaft and stairwell encroaching into the required setbacks to the exterior walls and exceeding the overall permitted building height. I move that this variance be approved as requested. Based on the information presented, the applicant did demonstrate all the standards for practical difficulty because, hang on here, the unique shape of the lot. Compliance with the strict letter of the ordinance would be unduly burdensome because of the unique shape of the lot. There is no injustice to adjoining neighbors by reason that they've made significant efforts in screening things and scaling things back and taking neighbor comment into to factor that in. Unique circumstances of the property have been demonstrated, given that they are sharing some parking space amenities with each other, and it's not self-created due to the configuration of the property. If approved, the motion must include all application for necessary permits to be made within 1 year, and all permits must be obtained prior to construction.
Support.
Motion and support. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, your request is granted.
Thank you.
Thank you for your patience. So do I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
A second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
We are.